And now that we've done the leg of our sock, it's time for us to do our cuff. Now this sock really can go as high as you want. So if you want to just continue to make it higher, increasing on the sides, because our legs do get wider as they go up, then you can do this even as over the knee socks. For this one, I'm just doing about a mid calf, and I'm ready to do the top cuff ribbing. Now for the ribbing, we are going down to a 2.5. You can even do it in a 3. It's just we want our tension to be tighter so that the sock is really cozy on our foot. We want this to be able to not slide down as we wear it. Nobody wants their socks sliding down into their shoe. So we're ready to do the cuff. I'm going to switch to the 2.5, and now I'm going to chain 8. Next, we are going to do a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in the remaining chains across. So this will be a total of 7 single crochet stitches. Then we are going to slip stitch the next 2 stitches. I like to do it just through both loops. It works out fine. So we're going to slip stitch the next 2 stitches from the top of the sock. And now we're going to turn our work. And really quick, I just want to know, I know that this curves right here. It usually ends up being just fine in the socks I've made for the cuff. But if you want, you can always do a couple more rounds until it looks like it's a bit more evened out. Some rounds are more curvy than others. So now I'm going to turn my work. And I'm going to skip those 2 slip stitches I just did from the top body of the sock, and working in the back loop only, I'm going to single crochet across. So we're just single crocheting these 7 stitches. So now that I am working these in the back loop only, I want to note that if you want to, for the very last and the very first stitch when you're working at the top of the cuff, so this is optional, you can always work through both loops instead of just the back loop for a little bit of a straighter edge. It's not a huge difference when we're working in yarn this small, but if you want to do that, you can. And now we're going to turn again. You can chain 1 at the beginning of the row. You don't have to. You can always omit it. And then we're going to single crochet in the back loops only for the 7 stitches across. Or if you prefer, you can single crochet through both loops of that very first stitch. And then the rest will be in that back loop only for all the remaining stitches across. And now we're going to be repeating what we did before. We are going to slip stitch the next 2 stitches from the top of the sock, rotate our work, and then skipping those 2 slip stitches, we are going to single crochet in the back loop only for the 7 stitches across. Now, if you want to adjust your cuff height, you totally can by starting with more chains and just working the same instructions. Some people like a taller cuff, a more prominent cuff, or if you want something more minimal, you can too. The more stitches you have, honestly, the more tension it's going to give you on your leg. So it just depends on what you prefer. And those are the rows we complete all the way around. So we're simply going to repeat that, working down and back up in rows all the way along the top of this sock. So you just keep working all the way along, and then when you get back to this point, I'll show you how to join your first row with the last row that we'll be working along the top. You will notice that the ribbing will be a bit smaller than the width of the sock, which is what we want because we want it to kind of tighten in. And this does stretch, so you do want it to have some tension when it is on your foot. So work that ribbing all the way around and then come on back. Now that we've worked those single crochet in the back loop only for all the way around the top of the sock, we can see that it pulls in the top, which is what we want. We want this section to be a little bit tighter than the rest. That way it fits around our leg nicely. You can also try it on and see how it goes. before you weave in your ends, just to make sure it's fitting correctly. Now what we will do is we will join our current row with our first row, and to do this, we're going to kind of hold them together. I'm going to go ahead and chain one, insert my hook through both loops or just the back loop only through my current row, and then I'm going to grab the first loop from the first row, yarn over, and slip stitch those together. Now for my very next stitch, I'm going to be working the rest in the back loop only. So I'm going to grab the back loop only of my current row, go ahead and grab the loop from the first row, yarn over, and slip stitch together. And we'll be doing that all the way down, just joining all these stitches. And that way we have a perfectly done cuff that will look really nice. So as you can see, this really doesn't show too much. It just kind of blends right in with that ribbing and it looks nice. Once you've gone all the way down, you can go ahead and fasten off and weave in that end. But like I said, if you want to make sure that this is an appropriate tension for you, you can go ahead and try it on before fastening off, just to make sure everything's fitting nicely.